Tonight, Senate bill that was passed through could mean changes for Kentucky's two largest school districts. Senate Bill 4 received final passage late tonight. Language in the bill would affect the eligibility of board members, keeping anyone who teaches outside of a district where they live from being on a board. That would only apply to Fayette and Jefferson counties due to the population size. Lexington State Representative Adriel Camuel has raised concerns about that change.
I feel like this part of the bill is directed at a member of my local school board in order to take care of a problem. And I will say that the voters of Fayette County will address the issue.
And WKYT received a statement tonight from FCPS Board Chair Tyler Murphy, and it says in part, quote, "My students learn the value of civic engagement and involvement every day in my classroom. Tonight, a majority of the legislature told them that my voice as an educator has no merit on the school board in the community where I live and pay taxes," end quote.